All right, let's talk about one of the most important skills for any product manager. We're going to dive into the difference between being data-driven versus being data-informed. It's really all about mastering that perfect blend of cold, hard numbers and, those powerful human stories.
So picture this. Your dashboard is just screaming at you. A whopping 70% of your users, poof, they're gone, vanished at the final step. The numbers are crystal clear about what is happening, but they give you absolutely zero clues about the why. Is the button broken? Is shipping way too expensive? Is the whole interface just a confusing mess? This is exactly the kind of mystery that great PMs get excited to solve.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to clearly define the what versus the why. Then we'll look at how numbers and stories really need each other. After that, I'll walk you through a simple framework you can start using immediately. We'll also cover some of the most common data traps to watch out for, and then finally, we'll talk about how to really level up your entire data game.
Okay, so let's start with the absolute foundation. If you want to solve any product puzzle, you've got to learn to look through two very different but equally essential lenses. Getting this right is the key to, well, everything else we're about to cover.
It really just boils down to this super simple but incredibly powerful distinction. On one side, you've got your quantitative data, the numbers. This tells you what is going on. And on the other side, you have qualitative data, the stories, the narrative. This is what helps you finally understand why it's happening.
So quantitative data is basically anything you can count or measure. The magic word here is scale. This is the data that gives you that 30,000-foot view. That big picture look at what's happening across thousands or even millions of your users.
And in the real world, this is the stuff you're probably looking at every day. We're talking about things like sign-up rates, daily active users, those all-important churn and retention numbers, the results from your A/B tests, and how people are using your features. These are the numbers that tell you if you're winning or losing the game. But look, numbers only ever tell half the story. The other side of that coin is qualitative data. This is all about the context, the stories, the feelings, the motivations of your users. It's the human element that breathes life into those cold, hard statistics.
So where do you find this treasure trove of information? Well, it's in those one-on-one user interviews. It's hidden in plain sight in support tickets. You capture it during usability testing, and it's scattered all over social media comments and those open-ended survey answers. This is where you find the real pain points and those incredible aha moments.
Now, there's a really interesting point here about trade-offs. On one end of the spectrum, you have personal conversations, right? They give you these incredibly rich, high-quality insights, but they take a lot of time and they can be expensive. On the other end, things like web polls are super cheap and they scale like crazy, but the quality of insight you get is just so much lower. Picking the right tool for the job really depends on what you're trying to learn.
All right, theory is great and all, but let's see how this stuff actually works in the real world. I want to walk you through a quick little case study to make all this feel a bit more tangible and show you how these two types of data come together to solve a very, very real problem.
So you're the PM, you come in on Monday and bam, you see this number, a 45% monthly churn rate for new users. This isn't just a red flag, this is a 5-alarm fire. Your quantitative data is screaming at you about what the problem is. You're losing almost half of your new signups every single month, but it gives you no clue where to even start fixing it.
So what do? You start talking to the people who churned, and then you hear it, the same story over and over again. This single quote, this is your qualitative breakthrough. It reveals the why. The onboarding experience is just flat out confusing. People don't know what to do, so they just give up and leave. Now you have a problem you can actually sink your teeth into.
Okay, so how do you make this discovery process something you can repeat? Let's take that insight and build it into a simple but really powerful framework that you can apply to pretty much any product problem you're ever going to face.
And here it is. It's a nice, simple, iterative loop. Step 1, observe with numbers. You use your quantitative data to spot a problem, like that scary drop in retention. Step 2, explore the why. You use your qualitative methods, like interviews, to really get inside the user's experience. Step 3, form a hypothesis. Based on what you learned, you're pretty sure a confusing UI is the real culprit. And finally, step 4, validate with numbers again. You A/B test a solution, a new, simplified flow, and you use quantitative data to see if retention actually improves. Observe, explore, hypothesize, validate. It's a beautiful thing.
Now, this framework is powerful, but it's not exactly foolproof. Let's talk about a few of the classic data traps that even really seasoned PMs fall into from time to time. Trust me, knowing these will save you a world of hurt down the road.
First up is what I like to call the frequently bias. This is so easy to fall for. It's when you give way too much weight to feedback just because you've heard it frequently or recently. Let's say two different users complained about the same thing this morning. It's so easy to think, oh no, this is a huge issue, even if it only affects 0.01% of your entire user base. You always have to gut check that feeling against the hard, quantitative data.
And then there's the other big one, data silos. This is that classic organizational headache where your data is just scattered all over the place. Marketing has their numbers, sales has theirs, product has its own set. When nobody has the full picture, you're forced to make decisions based on incomplete information. And that, my friends, is incredibly risky.
Okay, let's bring this all home. I want to talk about that final crucial mindset shift that really separates the good PMs from the truly great ones. It's about evolving from just being data-driven to becoming truly data-informed.
And here's how that difference plays out in the real world. A junior PM, they present a dashboard. They show you what the numbers are. But a great PM, they tell a story. They weave the what from the data together with the why from user feedback to create this compelling narrative that actually inspires their team to take meaningful action.
Want to start building this mindset today? Here's some pro tips you can use right away. For every team metric you share, pair it with a user quote or a real insight. Use your qualitative research to come up with your big ideas, and then use your quantitative A/B testing to validate them. And here's a really modern tip. Start using AI tools to help you analyze thousands of support tickets or survey responses. It can help you find that why at a scale that just wasn't possible before.
So, that brings us to the final critical question. As you look at your own product's data, I want you to ask yourself this. You know the what, you know what users did, but do you understand them well enough to tell the compelling story of why they did it? Because that's the real difference maker.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like.